G'day, Troy Dean from WP Elevation, and welcome to episode 62 of the WP Elevation podcast. Our feature guest this week comes to us all the way from Tempe, Arizona, Greg Taylor from Marketing Press. Now, I was in Arizona recently hanging out with our Infusionsoft consultant, Rich Thurman, and I was talking to Rich about we kind of were riffing on the fact that we think the most valuable person in the online digital ecosystem at the moment, and specifically the WordPress ecosystem, is a developer who understands marketing or a marketing person who has some development chops. And it's interesting because Greg Taylor describes himself as a marketing developer. It's the first time I've heard someone use that terminology. Maybe I'm just a little bit behind. I don't know. It's possible. Tell me if I am. Maybe there's a new word, a marketing developer, I don't know. I'll have to make one up. Marketing developer. I'll have to work on that one. Anyway, it's a fascinating episode. Greg he's a proud WordPress developer, but focuses on goal-orientated marketing strategies for his clients. Some of his clients include Jay Baer and the Convince and Convert blog, which the Content Marketing Institute rank as the #1 content marketing blog in the world. He's also partnered with Jay on the new marketing podcast search engine, which is built on WordPress. There's lots of cool stuff to learn in this episode. Plus, we are giving away, well, more importantly, Greg, I should say, is giving away a copy of Jay Baer's new book called Utility. Hang on, no, he's not. Sorry. He's giving away a copy of The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell, who Greg has actually met a few times and hung out with and spoken about the book. So he is giving away a copy of The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell, and Greg's actually going to write a note in the front of that book for you and send it to you from his office in Tempe, Arizona. So stick around for details on how you can learn that. Stay with us. Let's elevate.
This is the WP Elevation Podcast, helping WordPress consultants elevate.
This episode of the WP Elevation Podcast is brought to you by Video User Manuals. The original, the best way to teach your clients how to use WordPress. Of course, you know all about it by now. It puts over 70 video tutorials in your client's WordPress dashboard to teach them how to use WordPress as an editor to manage all of their content. We don't teach them how to install plugins and mess around with their theme, of course, because that's your job as a consultant to guide them through that and help them make those decisions. But we teach them how to manage all their content using the WordPress editor functionality. We teach them how to use WP SEO by Yoast, which of course you should be installing with every website. We teach them how to use WooCommerce, so that if they have got e-commerce, we'll teach them how to use the store. We teach them how to use Google Analytics, courtesy of Justin Catroni's fabulous videos. He is the analytics advocate at Google. So we teach them how to set up and read their analytics reports, courtesy of Justin's videos. You can rebrand it, put your own logo on it, add your own custom videos, hide individual videos, hide entire sections of videos, customize it until your heart's content. And then you can save your settings the way you like it set up. And with one click, you can install it on future sites without having to go through and rebrand it and set it all up again. It really is a fabulous plugin. It's been around since 2008. We make it here. It's ours. You can get it for $1 for your first month, which is just ridiculous. And you can also use some short codes to embed all of our videos in your membership website. So you can start selling access to a membership website and have all of our videos embedded in your membership website. It's pretty cool. Get it at videousermanuals.com or just go to wpelevation.com/VUM and check out the little video that my wife and I made. It's pretty funny. She's pretending to be a client and I'm pretending to hand over the website and show her how to use the videos. It's pretty cool. Anyway, elevation tip of the week this week, because Greg Taylor is so focused on goal-orientated marketing strategies for his clients. Here's a thing. If you're talking to a new client about a website and they start, talking about their Google Analytics and how they, read their analytics reports, here's the number one thing you can, the number one question you can ask them, which will usually stop them in their tracks. Do you have goals set up in Google Analytics, and are your goal conversion rates informing your content strategy moving forward? Because most website owners do not have goals set up, and if they do, they're not looking at them, and if they are looking at them, they're not changing or amending their content strategy to increase those conversion rates. But most people don't even have goals set up. So if you just want to put a handbrake on the whole thing and say, do you have Google Analytics goals set up in Google Analytics? No? Well, you should. Now, all of a sudden, you're not just an average web developer, you're talking to them about making a positive impact on their business. That's a great way to differentiate yourself. So that's my elevation tip this week. Greg Taylor is from Marketing Press. He's based in Tempe, Arizona. He is a WordPress developer. He's a marketing developer, is what he calls himself, and he focuses on goal-orientated marketing strategies for his clients. I really like a lot of what Greg has got to say, and also he shot this amazing time-lapse footage of the podcast from his office, which we will post underneath this. So underneath this video, if you're listening to this, you should get over to wpelevation.com/Greg Taylor and check out this video and the video that Greg made of the podcast as well. Hey, without further ado, let's go and meet Greg Taylor. G'day, Troy Dean here from WP Elevation, and I'm very pleased to have with me all the way from Tempe, Arizona, from Marketing Press drinking Red Bull, it's Greg Taylor. How are you, man?
Good, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
You forgot this was a video podcast, didn't you? And I just busted you drinking an energy drink.
Actually, I didn't, because I went and got a haircut and a shave today specifically.
Oh, really?
For this. Yes.
Awesome. I love it. So what time is it there right now? It's like mid-afternoon, yeah?
Yeah, it's 4:15
okay.
p.m.
So fair enough. You're allowed to have a Red Bull at 4:15 in the afternoon.
Yeah,
That's okay.
Thank you.
It's 10:15 in the morning, so I'm drinking coffee, which is kind of like the morning version of a Red Bull, right?
Yeah, sort of.
Hey, Greg, this episode, Greg has very kindly offered to give away a copy of a book that he didn't write called Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. Greg's going to actually write a little inscription in the front of this book and send it to you from his office. So stick around for details a little bit later on how you can enter that competition. Greg Taylor from Marketing Press. Before we start goofing off about all things marketing and WordPress, when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Wow. So the first thing I wanted to be was shortstop for the New York Yankees. So I grew up right outside New York City and always a Yankee fan, played baseball, wanted to be a shortstop. And then I went through a period of being a kid that I didn't really know what I wanted to be. You know, I was one of those guys. And then when I got later in college, I wanted to be an ad man, one of the guys in New York City, you know, that you see drinking the martinis, walking around with the suits and the briefcase. So it was a toss-up between a shortstop or an ad guy. So right. I'm a marketing developer. So I came kind of close.
A marketing developer is really interesting because it's funny. I was in Arizona a couple of weeks ago hanging out with Rich Thurman, who's our Infusionsoft consultant, and we were saying that we reckon the most valuable person in the whole ecosystem at the moment is a developer who understands marketing or a marketer with some development chops.
Yeah, absolutely. If what you're doing doesn't achieve results and there isn't goals attached to it, then I always pose the question to clients and other people I'm working with, why are we doing it?
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm a marketer by degree and by profession that fell into the development arena. So here at Marketing Press, I'm sort of the marketing guy that can develop.
Yeah.
Although my team would probably argue with you because I am by far the worst developer on the team.
Yeah. Me too.
But they're lousy marketers, so we're
Excellent. So when did you discover the internet? When did you first discover the web and think, oh, hang on, there's something in this. I think I'm going to have a crack at this.
Yeah, so I discovered it early on in about 19. So it wasn't even the web. It was like dial-up BBSs. We were all messing around. And it was like, maybe it was like the mid 80s, you know, like 83, 84, when we were just dialing into other systems and, you know, chat rooms, pre-CompuServe, and then the CompuServe and the Prodigies all came out. So I was into it a little bit there, you know, also exploring my amateur baseball career, which was a joke, but anyway. But I was exploring it there. And then, you know, when the boom started happening in the, you know, late 90s and early 2000s, or maybe even before that, when the web was accessible to everybody and it was more than just a little confined system, then I started kind of poking around on it and, you know, seeing where is this taking us? What can we do with it?
The graphical browser and the hyperlink changed everything, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And once you were able to reference one page from another page or from text, and you know there were some graphics, albeit terrible graphics, you know, behind things, and you were able to exchange images, and you know, I guess the inception of JPEG, you know, all that started. That really changed everything, the game for everybody.
Yeah, it's funny how like the hyperlink changed so much fundamentally, and it's funny how today as marketers we still measure so much by how many people click on a hyperlink.
Yeah, absolutely. It is kind of funny. I've never really thought of it like that, but it is one of those metrics that, we measure clicks, we measure visitors, and, visitors are just clicks, in a different manner. And we measure all of that stuff to make sure that we're going down the track the right way.
It's funny. I'm just googling who invented the hyperlink, because I know that there's a lot of talk about Tim Berners-Lee kind of being the father of the internet, but I'm really curious as to who the first person was that actually programmed the very first hyperlink. I think we should find that out. I'll do some research and find that out, and I might even try and get him on the podcast. Well, it says
that'd be interesting. That'd be good.
Tim Berners-Lee saw the possibility of using hyperlinks to link any information, but it still doesn't say that he invented it. I'm going to try and find out who invented the hyperlink, because I want to thank that person.
That's right. Yeah, I want to shake that man's hand.
Exactly. All right. When did you discover WordPress? Remember the first time you saw the WordPress dashboard?
Yeah, I do. It was about 2006. I had a friend who started a blog, a skateboarding blog here in the States, and he asked me to write a post. And that was the first time I got a username, I got a login, I clicked on it, and I was in the back end, writing away. I was able to share my experience, and that's what kind of drew me to it, to WordPress, being one of the platform where I was able to have a voice and share my experience with whoever wanted to read it. Maybe only 5 people, my mother included, read that article, but at the same time, the opportunity of many, many people to read it was there, and I was hooked. I was hooked from that point on.
What was it about it that hooked you in?
I think the ease of use. As clumsy as it was back then. And it was clumsy, of course. And I think that we're talking, I guess that's like 2.1, 2.0, something like that.
Yeah.
Like it was clumsy, but I was able to, again, I was able to share what I was thinking, through the written word in an easy manner in my own home or my office at the time without, having any great barrier to entry. All I needed was a username and a password, and I could write whatever I wanted to. And that's what really drew me to, the whole, the blogging side of things and the content side of things.
Yeah, it might have been clumsy, but like I've had this conversation with so many people on this podcast. In comparison to something like Joomla or Drupal or whatever it was back then, it worked. It was a dream. Like you could actually do it.
Sure. If you could, at that point, if you could, fire up a computer and use MS Word or any of that stuff, you could pretty much write a post. And to be fair, it's still like that. If you're able to operate Word or any other type of, writing software, you're able to write and have a voice in WordPress. So I love the simplicity of it, but then I also love how, when you get down to it, you can do anything you want with it, and it can be as complex as you want it to be. So it's kind of a two-headed monster there.
Yeah. How do you describe what you do in one sentence today? When you meet people for the first time and they say, "Hey, Greg, what do you do?" What's your elevator pitch, so to speak?
So I always say that, Marketing Press executes goal-oriented web development and marketing strategies. I try to keep it really short and sweet. I don't, our typical, our clients are small businesses or that middle level VP of marketing, for smaller, mid-sized companies. But I try to keep it short and sweet. We execute goal-oriented, web dev and marketing. I don't say that we do. I used to say we did a lot of, goal-oriented WordPress development, but then I found out that the clients don't really care. They don't care what platform we're executing a strategy on. They just want whatever we're doing to work and work well for their business.
Yeah. Shock horror that nobody actually cares what tool
exactly.
Use. Yeah.
And as WordPress, evolves, less and gains market share, of course, we can't ignore that fact that, less and less people, have objections about the WordPress platform.
Nice. What do you spend most of your time actually doing day to day?
So day to day, as my business grows, I spend a lot of time managing projects, front-facing with clients. I do a lot of public speaking. I do a lot of business development, and then half of my week is also revolving around writing code and working on WordPress stuff. So it's about 60-40, 50-50 depending on the week, but it's either business development and brand positioning, or it is actually working with clients on sites.
We're going to talk a little bit more about biz dev and your public speaking and content creation in a little while. But before we get to that, I'm always curious, as entrepreneurs building a business, very rarely do things go to plan. So I'm curious, what's the one thing that keeps you awake at night?
So that's kind of I have two answers to that. So professionally, scaling always keeps me awake at night. And I'm sure that I'm not the only person who sat here and said that to you. How do we scale in a consistent manner? So, and when I say consistent, how do we provide the same experience as a 4-person team, as an 8-person team? The one thing I always want with my brand is to be, and with Marketing Press, is for the experience to be consistent no matter who they encounter throughout the company. And that's one of the things that keeps me awake at night, because a lot of times there are really, really good developers out there that I would not put in front of a client.
Yeah.
And you have to know that, and you have to know where everybody fits in. On the flip side of things, personally, what keeps me awake at night is thinking about my legacy, and not so much to the WordPress world or the WordPress community, more of my legacy to the world we live in, and how am I contributing in a positive manner, and how will, I and the things that we've done be remembered. So.
Nice. I like it. I haven't had many people talk about the personal stuff that keeps them awake at night, and sort of meditating on that legacy stuff. It's nice to kind of get to know a little bit about the people behind the business,
Yeah, totally. What we talk about as entrepreneurs and developers and small businesses or freelancers, all this, we talk about the work-life balance and the struggle. And I think that we spend a lot of time talking about the work, that sometimes maybe we need to discuss the life a little bit more, and how, things like that keep me awake. How am I spending quality time with my family? Am I doing enough of that stuff too? So, that's all the stuff that, with the work-life balance, that's super important, because honestly, without that and I'm not good, I'm not perfect at that, right? So I'll put that out there right now, because my fiance is listening. She's gonna be the first one to pull the car over and give me and elbow me, right? So I'm not perfect at that, but every day we just try to be a little bit better, because without a good work-life balance, your work will suffer.
Yeah.
You can't go 20 hours.
Yeah.
A day. Chris Lemma, a friend of ours, in the community, he did his talk on the imposter syndrome. And one of the things that always stuck with me is, when he starts talking about, we wear a 18-hour workday like a badge of honor. And it doesn't need to be like that. So those are some of the things that run through my mind.
Yeah. Good quote. Yes, Chris Lemma, for those that have been living under a rock for the last 3 years, check out chrislemma.com. He's got lots of good things to say.
You owe me a beer, Chris.
So, just touching on that work-life balance, what do you do when you're not working? How do you stay balanced?
So I try to spend as much time with my fiance and my dog, going hiking here in the mountains in Arizona and whatnot. Also, I play music. I play guitar, and on the weekends I play in an adult soccer league. So nice. I'll get out there and take the pitch with my friends, and we'll go out there and hang out and blow off some steam, and it really helps. I'm also, I've gotten back into fitness in the last 7-8 months. So, when I'm not working, it's not odd for me to take off, for an hour during the day and go for a run, come back to the office and start going at it again. Yeah.
So, it's really good for your headspace, isn't it? Going for a run.
Yeah, it clears my mind. As a business owner, as a developer, anyone who has to solve problems creatively, it's been one of the best tools I've ever used to solve my problem. Every once in a while you'll develop something and you'll just hit a wall, and you won't know, why is this not working? This should work. Everything says this should work, but it's not working. And it's amazing. I go out and I'll take a run, or I'll do something like that, just get away from it, come back, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is why it's not working. Instead of spending that hour frustrated, swearing or doing whatever, now you're just out there clearing your head.
That's it.
Thinking about nothing else. So
those
are important things.
A little bit of distance from the problem actually gives you a bit of clarity, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And honestly, that goes back to the there you go, nice. That goes back to the work-life balance also.
I've got this thing in my office all the time because when I'm like waiting for podcasts to upload or webinars to upload, for those of you who are not watching the video, I'm holding my Gibson guitar right now.
Les Paul, there, yeah.
Yeah. It's actually called the Paul, and this is a model that comes off. It's called the Paul. It's a Les Paul without all the fancy stuff on it. So this is a Les Paul as it comes off the production line before they put the scratch plate on it, before they put the inlays in. Just a bare bones Les Paul. And
nice.
I love it, man. It's like while I'm waiting for podcast to upload, I just turn around, pick up the guitar, play some tunes, learn some new stuff, and it engages a different part of the brain as well.
Absolutely. So in my office down the hallway, I'm in my conference room right now. I have a guitar right in back of me also. And the thing is like, again, I can step away, strum a couple chords for 2 minutes, and come back and just say, all right, I'm recharged.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's very, very cool.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I love it. We should have a WordPress jam one day. There's lots of musos in the WordPress space, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. As I've heard your podcast, I've heard more and more about people, wanting to play music. And maybe at Pressonomics here when we're all in Tempe, we can come down to my office, which is right down the street. And I'll get some instruments and we'll figure it out.
Sounds awesome. I'm not sure that I'm going to make it to Pressnomics next year.
Oh, okay.
But if I don't, and that happens, please shoot some video or photo and send it over to me. That'd be awesome. Or Skype me in. You can Skype me in and I'll join in.
There you go. That's right. You and the Paul can join in.
If you could wave a magic wand and fix one thing in Marketing Press right now, what would it be?
I think it would be, again, the scaling challenges that we face, that, as the brand matures and as we go on and we take on more and more custom projects and more, difficult projects, I want to make sure that we are, scaling at a rate that's controllable. So I'm a firm believer in slow, controlled growth, and I've experienced the other side of that from other businesses I've been a part of. All of a sudden, I worked at a startup here in Arizona. We went from 4 people to 60 people in a matter of 3 months.
Wow.
And it was one of those things that it was out of control.
Yeah.
So I'm always cautious of that. So slow, controlled growth. So scaling is always on my mind, the number one thing.
Awesome. So let's dive a little bit deeper into Marketing Press. The thing that I like about what you're doing here is it says kind of WordPress in the name, but you've kind of niched away from being a general kind of WordPress developer, and the brand, the name, everything you stand for is, I believe, designed to attract the right kind of client and repel the wrong kind of client. Has that been a conscious decision that you've made, or is that something that just happened organically?
So it's a mixture of everything, actually, because Marketing Press is actually a pivot. I was part of another company, when I first started my business. It would have been 6 years ago, with another gentleman, and we were a content agency. And what happened was we were producing all of this content from all of our freelancers and everyone that was really, really top notch, but we would publish it on these lousy platforms and on these lousy sites. So as that partnership sort of dissolved, as we saw things differently, as so often businesses do, I made a decision to say, I'm going to take my marketing skills and my marketing background and everything I love about content and marketing, and I'm going to build the platform that has a chance of succeeding for the client versus, just going there and throwing it on, a site that maybe the business owner's wife's brother made, something like that. Yeah. So I wanted to really do that. So we've always been, Marketing Press, we're goal oriented 100%. So unless a client can tell us, so I always use this cliche, and I probably use it to death, that nobody wakes up in the morning and says, today's a great day to get a new website. Nobody says that. And if you're the person that says that, you need to go and get your head checked, because it's a process. And sometimes it's a difficult process, and it's a learning process, and you really learn a lot about yourself and your business and what you stand for and who you are. But if I can't sit in front of a client and have them kind of articulate, why are we doing this? What are the goals for this? What's the goal for this? What type of conversion are we trying to get? And we'll coach them into, I don't expect them to come to me with those answers. We'll coach them into that. Then we know, okay, this client is really, really right for us, and we have a great chance of succeeding with this client. And anybody else who can't articulate that, we turn away. And we turn away, we refer them to somebody else, and we say, I don't think that we're right to help you, but perhaps person, company XYZ down the road could help you better than we can.
Yeah, Chris Lemmer, for example.
yeah, somebody like that. Maybe they need more of a coaching.
Yeah.
They need more of a coach, or they need more hand-holding throughout the process than what we're able to give.
How do you, this is really interesting, because I agree 100% with everything you're saying, and I know that WP Elevation members probably think that I've sent you a script in advance because we're singing from the same hymn book. But one of the questions that I get all the time is, how do you turn down business when you need to eat?
You know what? So I learned very, very early on in both the company I was a part of and Marketing Press that unless you do turn down the business, you're in for a miserable time. And what happens is you're in for a miserable time because this client is, if they're wrong for you and the project is wrong for you, they're going to run you ragged, and you're not going to be prepared to say yes to something that's right, that's going to come along. So what I always say is you just have to have, you have to have the conviction that you know exactly who your client is and how you can help them. And if you know that, then it gets easier and easier to say no to the wrong business. I'm a big believer in how powerful and how liberating the word no is to some business. And but it takes a huge amount of courage and guts, as an entrepreneur, to say no when the bank balance says yes, you should. And it's one of those things, and I've wrestled with it before, and I'm not perfect at it. Marketing Press, sometimes we still accept clients that kind of sneak past us.
Yeah.
Everything seems good, and then they end up being the crazy girlfriend.
Yeah.
That is, hanging outside your door, at 2 a.m. or something like that. And it's like, that's not what we want. We want, we only want to have clients that, that are fun. I didn't start this business not to have fun and be miserable.
Totally.
Yeah, and also I want to have clients that we can help succeed.
Yeah.
And some people, you can't help everybody.
That's right.
And so I think just having the stones and the wherewithal to say no, is probably one of the greatest lessons I've ever learned. And I've learned the hard way.
Yeah.
Like everybody else.
Yeah.
And that's the only way you really learn that lesson.
Yeah.
You can listen to me say that, or you say that, or any of the pundits out there say that, but until you actually experience it, you're not going to practice that.
Because when you take on a client that isn't 100% a right fit, there's a little part inside of you that kind of feels a bit icky about it the whole time, and you just push that aside because you need the money and you want the job, right? You convince yourself it'll be good for the portfolio. You convince yourself that it'll be good for referrals. You convince yourself that they'll come around and see things your way. But the whole time something's not quite right. And you get to the end of the project and you think, man, this is just, I haven't made any profit on this because it's taken so freaking long because the client's been so painful because I should have said no.
Yeah, and you get resentful. And the other thing is, with Marketing Press, we have a saying like, if we can make things better, why wouldn't we? Right? So if we see things a certain way, and let's say it's going to take us an extra hour to fix something because it's going to be that much better for the client, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to explain it later, and that doesn't happen when you're resentful at a project. And by saying yes to the wrong ones, you don't go that extra mile. You're doing your brand a disservice. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, and at the end of, getting back to the legacy thing, right? At the end, my name and my company's name and our team's name is on everything that we do. So why wouldn't we want to be proud of every single thing that we put out there? And I don't think that you can truly be proud of things that you're not, meant to be doing.
Yeah, totally. The other thing that occurs to me is that the clients that feel right and the clients that are a good fit, they're generally the clients that are the most profitable. And that you just hit the nail on the head. You don't want to work with clients that you actually can't help, right? The clients that you have the biggest impact on are generally the clients that will pay you a premium for your service and will refer other good quality clients to you because you've had a great impact and they just love you for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a saying here in Marketing Press. We never want to take on a client that we can't go out and have a beer with in the pub.
Yeah.
Right? And that's just what we say. Like, if I don't want to go out and spend some time with them outside of work and talk to them about, different sports that are happening, or, let them in on my personal life, or a little bit here and there, they're not right for us. Because again, I didn't start this company to attract clients, right? I started this company to have a better life, you know, for me, my family, and people around us, and to help people. And like, I really, unless you're working with the right people, you know, I don't think that you can affect change as much as you think you can.
When did you, you know, how do you, starting a company and working for yourself and having your own business is very challenging. How do you keep going? Like, how do you not just chuck it in and go get a job?
So that's a great question. I've never been asked that, but you know, I think that what it is you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to surround yourself with good collaborators, and you have to surround yourself with good people who are in the same situation as you are. There are certain things that, you know, that are going on in my business that I can only share with a select amount of people, you know, and those people being entrepreneurs, right? If I were to share them with somebody who lives down the street from me, working a 9 to 5, they would think I was nuts for doing what I do. So I think that, and the other thing that I'm big on is small victories, right? You just always you want to launch a good project, and you want to ship often, you know, you do that. You got one victory, you move on to the next one. And you just take all these little successes and you let them build and build and build. And then all of a sudden, you know, you're 5 years later down the road, like Marketing Press is, looking back and saying, holy smoke, here we are. And I think that if we just take it day by day, project by project, and we just keep looking for little victories, which amount to, you know, end up being the sum of a big victory. And also relationships too. I mean, we've had some great relationships with some really great people in the WordPress community, in the entrepreneurship community, in the venture world, you know, and like, those are the things that really keep you going. Yeah.
Awesome. Do you think it takes, a special kind of person to be in business for themselves and to be an entrepreneur? Like, do you think there's a mindset thing that, like, there's kind of like a dogged determination to, like, never give up, no matter how hard things get?
Yeah, I totally do. I think that, you know, I think you have to be a little crazy. You have to be a little, you know, I don't know if I was as crazy as I was naive to certain things, you know, because I always say, like, every once in a while, like, wow, if I knew this 3 years ago, I probably would have never done it.
Yeah.
It would have seemed so hard and so daunting, you know, that I would have never done it. So I think you have to have a little bit of that. And, you know, I think that you do have to be a totally different person. Some people are content with going to work, punching the clock, you know, getting what somebody else gives them, and other people are not. And there's nothing the matter with that. If, you know, my mom's a school teacher, you know, my stepfather works construction, and that's like what they wanted to do. They weren't this, you know, entrepreneur thing. I was sort of forced into entrepreneurship because I kept getting fired from all these agencies I worked for. Believe it or not, I did. I always say I'm highly unemployable.
Yeah.
But because what happened, I was the square peg in the round hole, trying to do things differently.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing with Marketing Press. We launched something that was different from how everybody else was doing things. You know, everybody is talking about the pretty and the theme, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. We're talking about the data and the goal. And, you know, we use data-driven decisions to make all of our development decisions, and, you know, kind of going against the grain from that stuff. And that's what sets, you know, I think entrepreneurs apart from somebody who just wants to punch a clock.
Seth Godin says that one of the things about, you know, Seth Godin talks about the map, like the, you know, if you're an entrepreneur, don't expect someone to give you a map and show you where the treasure is. There is no map. You're the one that has to draw the map every day. And I think one of the scary things about being an entrepreneur is when you go to work, no one tells you what your to-do list is. You have to kind of invent it every day. So
absolutely.
So how do you know on any given day, how do you know what the most important thing is for you to be doing in that moment?
That's another great question. I think that, of course, everything that we do, you know, has priorities based upon where we are in the development stages of projects. And then there are other things that I've gotten in a really disciplined manner to do revenue generating activities between 8 and 5, right? There's tons of hours in a day. You know, I get up early, I go for a run, I do what I'm going to do. And there's times to do non-revenue generating activities. Now, non-revenue generating activities to me are things like, are things that are long plays for the business that will eventually play off, such as content for myself, for our company. I'm a big content producer still, blog 2-3 times a week. You know, we have our own video podcast we produce, and we put out once a week. We make sure that that's all taken care of, but that's all done after the client window kind of closes. I think there's only a limited number of hours in a day when you can be client facing. You know, if you're facing clients and dealing with problems at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, you know, as long as that's not the norm, that's an exception, there's something wrong with your business. So I think that what we do is we just try to do the next best thing that's right in front of us. You know, and you know, we use Basecamp to organize our projects. And honestly, I'm still a pad and paper kind of guy. I have a notebook that I write in every day of what I need to do, and there's something still satisfying to me to put an X in my checkbox and to make sure that it's done.
Awesome. You touched on a couple of points that I want to talk about. I want to talk about content and public speaking, but first of all, I want to talk about your portfolio, because you get there's a couple of really big items and brands on your portfolio. The two that stand out is J Bear and Convince and Convert. Tell me how, so for those that don't know, just go check out convinceandconvert.com and jbear.com, BAER.com. How did that relationship come about?
So that came about. So Jay is originally from Arizona, and he had offices here in Tempe before moving to Flagstaff, and then actually before he moved to Indiana, in the central part of our country right now in the Midwest. And it came out, it was a referral from a team that I collaborated with in San Francisco quite a bit, Chuck Reynolds and Jonathan Cressati of Ver. And they pointed Jay my way, and they just said, and, you know, I had known Jay, you know, casually from different events here and there. And when we met, we started talking about the project, and I met with his team and I met with everybody. It just clicked. It was just one of those things where it was like, you know, again, it was one of those projects and clients that when you sit down, you can say, okay, I see the vision for where you're trying to go. Now let me help you get there. So let me throw out some ideas. And, you know, the whole Convince and Convert team, to be fair to everybody, because it's more than just Jay, right? So everybody was very receptive to all the suggestions and all the ideas, and very respectful to our backgrounds and where we come from and exactly how we can help make things better. So it's been an awesome collaboration thus far.
Awesome. And because Jay speaks a lot, and they put out, you know, and Content Marketing Institute ranked the Convince and Convert blog as the #1 content marketing blog in the world, and he runs webinars. And how did you kind of pull everything that they were doing together into a kind of coherent strategy? Or maybe you're still doing that. Maybe you haven't quite worked that out yet.
Well, you know, so I think that part of it is they understand our mindset that perfection is the enemy of progress, right? So what we always want to do with everything we do for all clients, you know, is move the needle. We want to move the needle from where they are, and we'll always go back and iterate. You know, somebody said, and I don't remember who it is, and I've been using this quote a lot lately, so I should really look it up, that if you're not embarrassed of the first product you put out, you waited too long.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, so they're not afraid to do that. And when we met with them, you know, they had a very clear strategy as to what they wanted to do. They came to us with a design, and then they said, is this doable? Right? And we said, yeah, it's doable. Let's figure out how we're going to do it. So we use a lot of custom post types revolving around their podcasts and the Social Pros podcast. And we use a lot of custom post types when it comes to the blog. And, you know, it's built on Genesis. So it's built on Genesis with a starter theme that me and my lead developer, Jeremy Scott, came up with, called Chapter 1. And it's called sort of our starter child theme. And we've just been able to scale it out from there. But so I'm one person, my team is a super talented team. Without a super talented client, like what they brought to the table, we wouldn't have had such a great collaboration to make that site what it is. So it's a team effort, absolutely.
Nice, I like it. I'm going to put a link to it in the show notes, because I think it's a beautiful site, and I can see, I can see the strategy behind it. I'm also going to put a link to your portfolio, because I really like some of the stuff that you've got in your portfolio. I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes, and those show notes for those listening will be at wpelevation.com/Greg Taylor, all one word, all lowercase. Tell me about public speaking. I talk to a lot of people who understand the importance of speaking in front of large groups of people from a lead generation point of view, but they just cannot get out of their own way long enough to do it. Any ideas or any advice for people who want to public speak but are just terrified?
You know, other than giving the advice of just do it, you know, I think that if you start small, I didn't start speaking, you know, at large events. You know, I started out at WordPress meetups where there's maybe 20 people. and they're all 20 people that you know, which is actually scarier than speaking to 200 strangers sometimes. I spoke on, and I just did it as often as I possibly could. And I've had some presentations that were great. I've had some presentations that were bombs, right? You never know until you put things out there and how the audience is going to receive things. So I think that if you, aspire to be a public speaker and you aspire to do it, just go for it. Start small. Another way to do things is if somebody will have you on their show, such as this, you can start with podcasts, because this is just an informal way of public speaking, if you think about it, right?
Yep.
So if I were to think about the tens of thousands of people or hundreds of thousands of people who are going to listen to this, that might be a little nerve-wracking. But you and I having a conversation here, or maybe a small room full of people, that's a whole different situation. So the other thing I did, which actually nobody really mentions, is I took an improv class. And I took an improv class just to kind of get used to talking about things that I don't really know about in front of other people.
Yeah.
And if you wanna really dial in and hone your craft, talk about something you don't know in front of people. And then when you do go in front of people and you talk about something that you do know about, you're gonna feel that much more confident. So that was a tool that had helped me. And I have a writer friend, Brian LePan, here in Arizona, and he was a big proponent of go, take an improv class. You'll be so much better. And I was like, you're crazy. But then I did it, and it has really, really helped.
Yep, I agree wholeheartedly, man. Any kind of performance training or acting classes, improv classes like that, Toastmasters, whatever it is, all that stuff helps. Tell me about content, because one of the struggles with creating content is so the question is, how do you keep creating content when we all produce content that no one engages with, right? So every now and then you produce a piece of content and you hear crickets. You don't get comments on every piece of content. You don't set the world on fire with every piece of content you produce. How do you keep going? How do you play the long game when you don't get that instant gratification?
I think that you have to, first of all, you have to take creating content seriously, right? So for us to, when we do our blog posts, I schedule that as an activity. I do it typically about 7:15 in the morning, but that's an activity that's scheduled for me, and I give it the respect that it deserves. Just like I give any client meeting the respect that it deserves. So I show up, and I show up prepared for it. The other thing is that I think that the biggest mindset is you need to go out there and produce content and stay detached from the results, because you're going to have some gems, you're going to have some bombs, and it's amazing the pieces of content that I write that I'm most proud of, and I think that this is my evergreen piece of content. This is the one. It bombs in analytics, and then I'll throw some kind of quip out there, quick, maybe 250, 350 words, and people love it. So as much as I know my audience, and other entrepreneurs and freelancers know their audience, you don't know what the results are going to be. You can sort of have a feeling, but I think that it's something that you just need to stick with until you start to see the benefits of it.
Yeah, it's good. It's great advice. And it's funny, I've heard so many people say that the piece that they think is going to rock the world, no one cares about. And then something some throwaway comment goes viral. Yeah.
It's so weird like that. And you can't predict that.
All right, we should probably do the elevation round, I guess, our lightning round, which is, for those that don't know, WP Elevation is a business accelerator program, a global mastermind of WordPress consultants to help you build a WordPress consulting business. So I'm going to ask Greg a series of quick questions about consulting and freelancing, and hopefully Greg's going to blow us away with some quick answers off the top of your head. Sound good? All right.
Let's do it.
What's the number one thing any freelancer or consultant needs to know?
They need to understand their value and how to charge for it accordingly.
Yeah, that's awesome. What's the best thing you've ever done to find new customers?
So the best thing I've ever done to find new customers is not be an egomaniac or a jerk, when I'm in front of people, and to do really good work. There's so many people who do really good work, but they're just dicks, and you don't want to deal with them. So if you're nice to people, if you do good work, you treat people well, and you're yourself, I think that work will find you.
Do good work and don't be a dick.
Yeah, that's
pretty much.
We're gonna do a Marketing Press TV video on not being a dick. Anyway.
What's the, how do you stop competing on price? Because you've got your prices listed on your website, right? So,
and that's a new thing for us.
yeah,
that's actually
which I love. I just think it's fantastic. I mean, and you're not at the bottom end of the market. You've kind of gone, well, this is where we're at, and if this is too much for you, well, sorry, so be it. How do you do that? How do you stop competing on price?
I think just by doing good work. By doing good work and by demonstrating your value on what you bring to the table. And the reason we have our prices on the website is because I was tired of speaking to people and taking meetings for my team and then have them get sticker shock, realize like, wow, it's that much money to do this.
Yeah.
So now if our prices, which are not astronomical, we're in the middle of the road, but at the same time, it's like, if these aren't in your budget, we're not for you.
Yep. Perfect.
It's a qualification thing.
Yep. I love it. Any tips on, because the thing is most people won't do that because they're afraid they'll lose work, but what they don't understand is the work you will lose is not worth taking on in the first place.
It goes back to the saying no, how liberating and powerful saying no actually is to your business.
Yeah. Any tips on writing better proposals?
So I use BidSketch.
Yeah.
And I've been able to I've been able to have a process around my proposal. And I have templates for about 4 different types of work that we see. So I'm able to do that. And I make sure that we lock down a tight scope for what we're going to do and the timeline we're going to produce it.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite tool for CRM?
I'm still an email and a phone guy. I just, I have things cataloged and filtered in Gmail. I do use Harvest, that's my accounting software, but I do use that, the CRM part of that for some things.
Cool. Harvest. Okay. So email and Harvest. I like it. And what's the best way to keep a project and a client on track?
By clearly communicating the expectations and on both sides of the table, that I will deliver this to you as long as I have that from your team, and by collaboration. Yeah. So what we do is we have everything in Basecamp. We're transparent. We have both sides open to the client. They can see the discussions and understand why it's important for us to receive what they promise us. So I think clear and concise communication on where you are and what you need.
Awesome. Any ideas for getting referrals from existing clients?
Do good work and ask for them.
Yeah.
I mean, so many people are afraid to ask. You have your number one client who's singing your praises. Why not ask them, do you know anybody else like yourself that we can help? Because first of all, if you've done good work for him and it's a person that you're comfortable in asking, he's probably going to know people who are a lot like him who will be a good fit for your company. So don't be afraid to ask. Yeah,
I like it. And final question in the elevation round is, what's the number one thing you can do to differentiate yourself?
I think by let people know who you are, let your brand and have a personality. Make sure that you're in front of people in an open, honest, transparent way, and just keep doing good work. Just produce good. It's amazing how many business problems are solved by producing good work.
Yeah, you're right.
Right? I mean, just think about how much we touched on it. The pricing, the referrals, everything. So.
Yep. You're totally right, man. I absolutely agree. And the thing is, I just want to say this because a lot of WordPress consultants or freelancers aren't strong developers. Doing good work doesn't mean, getting into GitHub and using the latest CSS preprocessor and being a geeky nerd. If that's not what you do, then do good work in helping your clients solve business problems and contract out the hardcore development work to someone who's really good at that.
Yeah, I learned early on in my career from somebody who was a CFO of a big bank here in the States. And he said, the secret to success is find the best people to work with and pay them accordingly. Yeah. And that's exactly what we do. Our team is compensated in a way that they're happy with, and they're the best people who are available, who want to work with us. Yep. So it's amazing. I can't take credit for everything that's in the Marketing Press portfolio. Yep. I wish that I would, but it's a lot of sweat, blood, sweat, and tears from Jeremy, Mike, and Kevin, and myself going in there. And it takes a true collaboration to make something great. Yep.
Absolutely. All good advice. Hey man, what's the future for Marketing Press? Where do you imagine you'll be in 12 months' time?
So I think we're just going to concentrate on, again, that slow controlled growth. We just added a new team member the other day, And we're going to start working more and more on custom sites, like the marketingpodcasts.com site, which we built, and just different things that different problems we can solve with WordPress. And what the future for me is, I want to get the best people, and so I want to surround myself with the best people and get out of their way.
Nice.
I want to let them do what they do. And, I want to be able to have them give me a platform so that I can do what I do.
Nice.
And I think that that's one of the things that, will make Marketing Press successful down the road.
So you guys built the marketingpodcast.com website?
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
We built marketingpodcasts.com in a collaboration with Jay Bear and Convince and Convert team.
Gotcha. I've just discovered it like in the last few days. I've just literally discovered it, and I think it's awesome.
Yeah. So it's something that we're working on and refining. Again, we put out an MVP to see how the public would receive it, and it's gone over very, very well. And what we're doing now, we're just tightening up processes, tightening up code, making sure all of our code is efficient and it runs, flawlessly, and the scoring algorithms all work in such a way where people want to use it and have it as a valuable business tool.
Nice. I like it a lot. I've also just discovered Tap Influence. I'm getting lost in the matrix here. I need to pull out.
Absolutely.
Just before we wrap up, what is the number one piece of advice you would give any entrepreneur trying to build their own business?
I think just, again, be comfortable with your value, understand what you bring to the table, charge accordingly, and don't be afraid to say no.
That's really good advice, man. I wish someone had told me that 8 years ago when I first started out. Where can people reach out and say thanks, man?
Yeah, so you definitely visit the marketingpress.com site. And me personally, you can reach out to me on Twitter, and my handle is @grtaylor2, and that's the number 2. So I'd be happy to answer any questions or keep talking to people.
Cool, sweet. Finally, who would you like me to interview on the podcast, and why?
I think I'd like you to interview Brad Williams, if he hasn't been on the podcast yet. Brad Williams from Web Dev Studio.
Yeah.
Super guy. I find Brad, Brian, and I know Lisa's been on your show, but I find Brad and Brian to be brilliant developers. And I think that what I respect the most about them is they're taking WordPress to the bleeding edge. And it's really, really important for our community to see people who are trailblazers like that, who are taking things to the bleeding edge and seeing, showing everybody else exactly what WordPress can do. And I'll be honest with you, without seeing some of the things that Brad, Brian, and Lisa's team have done in Web Dev Studios, I don't think we would have had the courage or the wherewithal to build marketing podcasts on WordPress. So,
nice.
Thank you guys for doing what you do, but I'd love to hear Brad or Brian on the show.
All right, Brad or Brian, I'm coming to get you, courtesy of Greg Taylor. Keep your eyes on your inbox. Hey, final thing that we haven't talked about is Tipping Point, Malcolm Gladwell. You're giving away a copy of this book, and you're going to write in it and sign it, even though you didn't write it. But you have met Malcolm Gladwell a couple of times, right? Tell me about that.
I have. Yeah, he was a super cool guy. I just told him how the book has kind of influenced my career and how much I enjoyed it. And he was super gracious, very, very nice. He's a New Yorker, much like myself, and it was awesome. It was really, really cool.
All right, so what do people need to do in order to enter the competition to win this prize?
So I think that, every time I'm on a podcast or every time I'm on a show, everybody asks me about quotes to success. I'd love to read what people out there who are watching this video in the comment section. I'd love to see what success quotes inspire you.
Awesome. All right, you heard it here. So leave a comment under the video. Tell Greg your success quote, the quote that inspires you, and I'll get Greg to swing by in a couple of weeks and award the prize. Sound good, man?
Absolutely. Love it.
Awesome. Hey, dude, thank you so much for being on the WP Elevation podcast. I really appreciate it, and I wish you all the best for the future of Marketing Press, and keep in touch, man.
Likewise. Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode of the WP Elevation podcast with Greg Taylor from Marketing Press as much as I enjoyed making it. And the time-lapse video, check out underneath this video, the time-lapse video that he made of the episode is just epic. It's awesome. Now, subscribe to the podcast, of course, at wpelevation.com/subscribe. I should slow that down so you can understand it. wpelevation.com/subscribe. And we'll make sure you get some access to some free content or a free report or a free webinar when you do. And also, remember, this episode is brought to you by Video User Manuals, the plugin that puts over 70 video tutorials in your client's WordPress dashboard to teach them how to use WordPress, how to use SEO by Yoast, how to use WooCommerce, and how to use Google Analytics. Rebrand it, rebadge it, call it your own, add your own videos to it, turn videos on or off. It's amazing how much you can customize it and how much time it will save you. So there's no need to teach your clients how to use WordPress anymore. This is the original, the best, the only way to teach your clients how to use WordPress. Check it out at wpelevation.com/VUM. And you can get it for $1 for your first month, which is just ridiculous. Everything about this episode and all the show notes and links will be at wpelevation.com/Greg Taylor. So make sure you get over there and leave your comment under the video in order to win the prize. Remember, Greg is giving away a copy of The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell, and he's actually going to write a little note in the front of that book and send it to you from his office. So make sure you leave that comment underneath the video as instructed to enter that prize. Next week on the podcast, let me just double check this. I believe next week, if I'm not mistaken, we have none other than, come on, Asana, here we go. We have Marcus Sheridan, the Sales Lion. Now, I'll let you in a little secret. I've actually already shot that episode of the podcast, and it is epic. It's very short. It's a lot shorter than our usual episodes because Marcus was on a bit of a time schedule, but he punches so much in. He packs so much content in a short space of time. It's definitely worth checking out. That's next week on the podcast. In the meantime, get over to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating, please. It helps us come up in the ratings. Check us out on Stitcher Radio at stitcher.net. I hope you're enjoying the podcast as much as we are. I hope your WordPress consulting business is going well. Check us out at wpelevation.com if you want some business coaching and training, and come and join the community of WordPress consultants hanging out in our Business Accelerator program and learn how to build a proper, sustainable, profitable business as a WordPress